Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are tackling a topic that even native English speakers get wrong all the time. And I mean people who have spoken English their whole lives still pause and second-guess themselves on this one.
Yes, and when learners hear that even native speakers struggle with it, they sometimes feel relieved, like, okay, so it is not just me. But then they also feel a little scared because they think, if native speakers cannot get it right, how am I supposed to?
And that is exactly why we are here today. Because once you understand the logic behind who and whom, it actually becomes very clear. It is not random at all. There's a simple system underneath it, and we are going to unlock that system today.
So, let us start with the basics. What are who and whom?
Both who and whom are what we call pronouns. A pronoun is a word that replaces a noun. Instead of saying the name of a person again and again, you use a pronoun. Words like he, she, him, her, they, them are all pronouns. Who and whom belong to that same family.
But who and whom are special kinds of pronouns. They are question pronouns and relative pronouns, meaning you use them to ask questions about people or to give more information about a person in a sentence.
Right, and the difference between who and whom comes down to a very specific grammar idea, the idea of subject and object.
Okay, so let us explain subject and object because this is the key that unlocks everything.
The subject of a sentence is the person or thing doing the action. The object is the person or thing receiving the action or being affected by it. Let me give you a simple example. She called him. She is the subject, she is doing the calling. Him is the object, he is the one being called.
So the subject does the action and the object receives the action.
Exactly. And here's the rule. Who is used for subjects, whom is used for objects. That's the whole rule. If you remember nothing else from today, remember that.
Who equals subject, whom equals object.
Yes. Who is like he or she. Whom is like him or her. This connection is the secret shortcut, and we are going to come back to it again and again.
So the trick is, instead of asking yourself, is this who or whom, you ask yourself, would I say he or him here? If the answer is he, you use who. If the answer is him, you use whom.
Perfect. You just gave away the best trick before I even explained it fully. And it works brilliantly. Let me show you why. Take the question, who called you? You can answer that question with, he called me. He is the subject, so you use who. Who called you?
And if you want to ask, whom did you call? The answer would be, I called him. Him is the object, so you use whom. Whom did you call?
Exactly. He equals who, him equals whom. She equals who, her equals whom. That substitution trick works every single time.
Let me try one. Who or whom gave you that book?
Test it. Would you say, he gave me that book, or him gave me that book?
He gave me that book. He sounds right, so it is who. Who gave you that book?
Perfect. Now try this one. You spoke to who or whom yesterday?
Would I say you spoke to he yesterday or you spoke to him yesterday? Him sounds right, so it is whom. You spoke to whom yesterday?
Brilliant! You're already doing it. And honestly, that is the entire skill, that one substitution test. He or she means who, him or her means whom.
Now let's talk about where who and whom show up, because there are a few different situations and I want listeners to feel comfortable in all of them.
Good idea. The first situation is direct questions. You're asking a question about a person. Who is coming to the party? Who wrote this book? Who broke the window? All of these have who because the answer is a subject. He is coming. She wrote it. He broke it.
And with whom in direct questions, whom did you invite? Whom are you talking about? Whom did she marry? All of these have whom because the answer is an object. I invited her. I'm talking about him. She married him.
The second situation is in relative clauses. A relative clause is a group of words that gives more information about a noun. For example, the teacher who taught me English was very kind. The word who here is inside a clause that describes the teacher.
And you use who there because the teacher is the subject of that clause. The teacher taught me. She taught me. Subject, so who.
Now, if the person is the object inside the clause, you use whom. The man whom I met yesterday was very friendly. Here, I met him. Him is the object, so whom.
The friend whom she called did not answer. She called her. Her is the object, so whom.
The candidate whom they selected was very experienced. They selected him. Him is the object, so whom.
Now, I want to be honest with our listeners about something. In everyday spoken English, especially in formal conversations, many people use who, even in places where whom is technically correct.
Yes, that is very true. If someone says, "Who did you invite?" instead of "Whom did you invite?" in a casual conversation, nobody's going to correct them. It sounds natural, and people do it all the time.
So does that mean whom is old-fashioned or dying out?
Not completely. Whom is still very much used in formal writing, in professional emails, in academic papers, in journalism, in literature. If you are writing something serious and formal, knowing when to use whom makes you sound educated and polished.
And even in speaking, if you are giving a presentation or speaking in a professional setting, using whom correctly will make a strong impression.
So the goal is to understand both and to know when each is expected. In casual conversation, who everywhere is usually fine. In formal contexts, using whom correctly shows a high level of English.
Now, let me ask you about a phrase that people hear a lot, to whom it may concern. You see this on formal letters and emails. Why whom there?
Yes, the present perfect always needs have or has before the past participle. You cannot drop it. I have eaten. She has gone. They have arrived. The have or has must be there.
Mistake number 5, using the wrong past participle, saying I have went instead of I have gone, or she has ate instead of she has eaten.
This comes from not knowing irregular past participles. Go becomes gone, not went. Eat becomes eaten, not ate. See becomes seen, not saw. These need to be memorized over time.
And mistake number 6, overusing the present perfect when simple past is better. In American English, especially, if you mention a specific finished time, you use simple past, not present perfect.
Right. I saw that movie last night, not I have seen that movie last night. Once you name a specific finished time, the connection to the present is gone, so you use simple past.
So, have I seen that movie is fine if you are just asking about experience, but I saw it last night names the specific time, so you use simple past.
Exactly. The present perfect works best without a specific finished time. Ever, never, already, yet, since, for, just. These words often go with the present perfect.
Let us go through a few quick examples using those words.
Have you ever been to Japan? I have never tried skydiving. She has already submitted her report. We have not finished yet. I have lived here since 2018. He has worked there for 5 years. She has just called me.
All of those feel natural and connected to the present moment.
Right. None of them say exactly when in the past. They just say it happened or did not happen, and it is relevant to now.
Now I want to talk about have as a main verb versus have as a helping verb, because I think this confuses a lot of people.
Good point. Have can do 2 different jobs in a sentence. Sometimes it is the main verb, meaning to possess or experience. I have a book. She has a headache. They had a wonderful trip.
And sometimes have is a helping verb. It helps another verb form a tense. I have finished the work. She has been waiting. They had already eaten.
When it is a helping verb, it's not really about possession. It's just doing a grammatical job to show the tense. The main action is in the other verb.
So in I have a book, have is the main verb, and a book is the thing being possessed. But in I have finished my book, have is helping the verb finished show that the action is complete and connected to now.
Exactly. 2 jobs, 1 word. Context tells you which job it is doing.
Let us talk about questions and negatives, because learners sometimes struggle with how to use have, has, and had in those forms.
For questions in simple present, you use do or does with have. You do not say, have you a car? You say, do you have a car? Does she have a sister?
And for negatives in simple present, you say do not have or does not have. I do not have time. He does not have a phone.
But for questions with the present perfect, you just flip the subject and have or has. Have you ever been to London? Has she finished her work? No do or does needed.
And for negatives in the present perfect, you add not after have or has. I have not seen that film. She has not called back.
For past perfect questions, you flip had and the subject. Had you met her before? For negatives, you say had not. I had not realized the mistake.
Great. Now, let me ask you a question that I think many learners wonder about. How do you know if something should be present perfect or simple past when both could sound okay?
The key is to ask yourself 2 things. First, is the time finished or still relevant? If you are thinking about a specific finished moment in the past, use simple past. If the time is not specific or if the action connects to now, use present perfect.
Second question.
Does the when matter here, or just that it happened? If the when matters, use simple past. If only the fact that it happened matters, use present perfect.
So if someone asks, have you ever eaten mangoes, they just want to know about your experience. The when doesn't matter.
But if someone asks, when did you eat mangoes, they want the specific time. You say, I ate mangoes last summer. Simple past.
That is such a clear way to understand it. When does the when matter?
Exactly. Ask yourself, does the when matter here? That will point you to the right tense most of the time.
Let us do a quick confidence round for our listeners. I will give you a sentence with a blank, and you fill in have, has, or had.
Let's do it.
She blank a new apartment now.
Has. She has a new apartment now. Present tense, 3rd person singular.
I blank finished my homework already.
Have. I have finished my homework already. Present perfect with I.
By the time he arrived, she blank already left.
Had. She had already left. Past perfect showing one past event before another.
They blank 3 cats when they lived in the countryside.
Had. They had 3 cats. Simple past, talking about possession in the past.
We blank never visited that museum before today.
Had. We had never visited that museum before today. Past perfect showing no experience up to that point in the past.
He blank been working at that company since 2020.
Has. He has been working there since 2020. Present perfect continuous showing it started in the past and continues now.
You passed with full marks.
And I'm sure all our listeners did too. These things click when you hear enough examples and practice enough.
Let us close with some confidence-building words for everyone listening.
Yes, if you've been mixing up have, has, and had, don't be hard on yourself. These are genuinely tricky. Even people who speak English every day sometimes pause on the perfect tenses.
The fact that you are here learning about them means you're already ahead of so many people.
Start small. Get have versus has right first. That's just a matter of knowing your subjects. Then move on to using had for the past. Then slowly start using the perfect tenses.
You don't have to learn everything at once. Language learning is a journey. Each step builds on the last.
Read in English. Listen in English. Notice when have, has, and had are used. Your brain will start to feel when something sounds right or wrong. That feeling is your instinct developing, and it's a very good sign.
And never stop speaking just because you're afraid of making a mistake. Mistakes are how you learn. Every error you make and notice is your brain getting stronger.
We believe in you. You've got this. And yes, we used have correctly right there.
Ha!
We did. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. We hope this gave you real clarity and real confidence with have, has, and had.
Keep going. Keep learning. See you in the next episode.